I'd like to call this meeting to order. And of course, my name is Helen Noriega, and today I am taking Sam Couchman's mayorship, just for today. So I welcome everyone for being here, and I thank my council members for also being here. Today we are going to call to order.
Councilmember Cowdegy,
Here.
Councilmember Nava,
Here.
Councilmember Wharton,
Here.
Councilmember Noriega.
Here. Okay, we're going to do the invocation. Norma, would you do the invocation, please? Yes. Everybody stand, please.
Please join me in this prayer. God of all creation, we come before you to welcome you to this meeting. We give you respect and acknowledge you as our creator and provider. It is you who are omnipresent. You are everywhere, Lord. It is you who are omnipotent. You have all power. It is you who are omniscient. You know everything. God, as we begin this meeting, we ask that you would guide our thoughts and our actions so that we may have a successful meeting today. Help us to accomplish our goals while displaying your character. We pray these things in your mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Nava.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance by putting your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
There's a couple of seats. There's one here and a couple there, if anybody would like to sit. Okay, thank you. There's two there. Oh, we have three. Okay, I would like to move our public hearing to the end of the last one on our agenda. So is that okay with my fellow council members?
So are you saying after regular business or at the
End.
after the city clerk's report?
City clerk's report. Okay,
So moved. Thank you. You need a motion for that?
Second, if we want to do that.
okay.
Is there a
Discussion.
particular reason to move the public hearing?
Yes, we're waiting for a couple of people, and so they haven't shown up. So I was asked if I could wait for them, and they'd asked for us to move.
Okay.
Okay? Everybody understand that? We're okay? Okay? All right. So I need approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Yes, you have a question?
Okay, so you moved, yeah, I thought we had a motion already in a second, right? So we have a motion
Oh, I'm
and a second,
sorry.
so we're
Oh, we
voting.
didn't
Yeah.
take over.
Okay.
You didn't.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
You don't know.
My first one. That's my second mistake I've noticed. Thank you.
It's okay.
Okay, approval of agenda.
So moved.
I need a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Public appearance and comments, not to exceed 4 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name for the record. You are not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade an individual's personal privacy. Please direct your questions and comments to the city council. Anyone? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Jean Pantaleo.
You want to bring that down?
My name is Jean Pantaleo, And I sent a letter to Mayor Couchman on June 7th regarding instituting a discount for the water trash sewer bill for Brawley residents, people with fixed incomes and seniors, similar to what the IID has going. And I also sent an email to all the city council members. I hope they got it. And thank you, Mrs. Noriega, for responding to my email. Mayor Couchman did send me an email and said to come to this meeting and that you're working on it. So I'm just here to let you know I'm waiting, and hopefully you can all find some way to address this problem, because it's very difficult out there with everything going up except the income.
Yes, our city manager is working on it, and as soon as we come up with some kind of solution, or we'll have a discussion on it, and we will definitely let you know.
All right, thank you.
Okay? Thank you for coming.
Good evening, Council, Mayor Noriega for the evening.
Good evening.
Katie Luna with the Brawley Chamber of Commerce, just here with a couple updates and announcements. First off, I am happy to say that we are moving along wonderfully with our speed networking event. We did change our name from speed dating to speed networking, so it's a little more kosher, I guess. And so we're really excited. We did a press conference last week with our motivational speaker that turned out really well, and he got us all fired up. And so we're looking forward to the event July 31st at the Lions Center. And we appreciate certainly the city staff and council for being accommodating with the space and working through that with us. Also coming up, flyers are being sent out, but we have Doc's Organics grand opening and ribbon cutting that you are invited to. That's July 27th. I believe the flyer was already sent. And in August, the first Thursday in August, we'll be having our regular monthly mixer at the Florentine Collection. So we invite you to that as well. And to follow up on a previous announcement that I had made, or an update that I had made here at council. As you may recall, the chamber this year has transitioned the Queen contest into its own identity, which is the Brawley Cattle Call Queen Royalty Association. We're very happy about that, very excited about that, and we're working very diligently to secure all that is entailed with that. And so when I presented, I was missing my other half to that, who is Tracy Cox, and so I brought her here this evening. She is the president of the association, and she's going to provide an update, and we have some press releases here afterwards.
Hello, good evening. I'm Tracy Cox. I'm the newly established president of the Brawley Cattle Call Queen Royalty Association. I do have some information today regarding that. We did have our application period open for 2 months from May 1st to June 30th. Unfortunately, we did not receive the outcry that we were hoping to receive. Since we are in a transition period, we have decided amongst the board that we have to kind of take a lull this year to fully establish the Royalty Association. We will have some representation out with one of our previous queens, and then hopefully the majority of previous queens from years past. And then next year we are going to restart the program and hopefully bring it back in a new light and have the girls represent in the manner that we used to have our Cattle Call Queens represent. So we do have a press release on that, so you guys can have a copy of this afterwards. And if you do ever have any questions, my number is on the press release. It's also on the chamber under the Brawley Cattle Call Queens portion of it. And please give me a call if you ever have any questions. Okay?
Well, thank you and congratulations for being the president.
Thank you.
Anyone have anything?
My only comment was, we've had some even recent success, right, with our some of our recent past queens that are now competing at
We
a
have,
larger
actually, currently at this time, Kylie Roper, who was a teen queen, I believe in 2012, 2013. She is currently the District 8 California High School Rodeo Queen.
Right.
She is up in Montana at this time, competing to become the National High School Rodeo Queen.
Right.
So our girls, previous girls have continued on from our queen category here onto bigger and better titles, and hopefully we can establish that again and have a lot more of our queens exceed and expel in higher rankings.
Super, thank you. Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you.
Katie?
I have nothing.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for giving us information. Next.
Go Reblar. I come in peace this time, guys. I know in March and April, discussion was held on a community downtown cleanup. Since then, I think I've heard very little, if anything at all, from the council. So I'm here to help expedite that, help get this going. And I took part in the Calexico downtown cleanup with the Brown Bag Coalition to see how they coordinate it, how they organize it. I even talked to Maribel Padilla of the coalition. I've taped the waiver form as a template for our city attorney. Make it easier so you don't have to get your own. I've also talked to Ryan Kelly, County Supervisor, in donation of supplies. And I've reached out to Simon Canales. So the Calexico, they coordinate with the high school to students who need hours or who civics teachers who want to get their students engaged. Have them do the cleanup to take away hours so they can attend a dance or graduate. So I've reached out to Simon, see her on a day for a dance. So where kids need to get hours taken care of. And also reach out to several businesses in regards to donations of water, also supplies, and even paint if we can get the city's approval to paint. And so this is something I think should have been done a long time ago. I think we've seen our downtown. I know I've been a critic of it in regards to some of the things going on there. And so I want to set a date. I'm not sure what the work you guys have done, if you guys have any potential dates, but I think once I reach out to Simon and coordinate it, set a date, I've talked to a guy who can do a flyer, something that pops, something that, not just cleanup, something that will grab attention. And so I'm proposing that. I'm not sure what I would need from the city or what you guys how we can work together to do this and get it done. Like I said, I want to set a date as soon as possible, as soon as the summer's over, as soon as school starts, as soon as Simon gives the okay on what date's the best to get most participation. And so, like I said, here's a template for their waiver. So, I don't want to take away from your pottery, the city attorney. No, I'm just kidding. And so pretty much that's what I propose. I'd like to speak with you guys regarding it so we can get the community back engaged and get them cleaning up and do our part. So that's what I got to say. Thank you, guys.
I just want to thank you for not only being the critic, but also volunteering and having ideas. It really makes life easier for all of us when you can criticize, but you also need to have ideas. So I'm really happy that you found that. George, have anything? These are two gentlemen who take care of our Main Street. So,
Well, I just, I do also appreciate that, and I think all of us have been thinking about doing something about our downtown, and the cleanup definitely is a great thing for us to put our combined efforts into.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure who would be the proper person to actually start working with you to coordinate this event so that the city's also involved with the high school and whoever else is going to volunteer for this project. Because of course we need all the coordination that we can and make sure that we follow all the right policies and procedures.
The Calexico's done it quite some time. They have a great model. They get great participation. And like I said, I took part and talked to Maribel to see how it is. And
So I guess we just need to put you in contact with probably Rosanna and then take it from there. And what dates were
like I said,
you?
I'm waiting for Simon to get back to see what day. I'm like, hey, what day would be the best? What days do you have a dance like the weekend before a dance, where kids are going to need to get hours off, just so kids will have to do, will look out to do it. So
I'm not sure, we may want to assign somebody maybe to a committee or something. I'm not.
and that would be nice if we could do it before November cattle call.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Before the cattle call.
Anyone else?
So I'd be happy to serve as the point of contact. Usually either Streets and Utilities or Parks and Rec handle our community work crews that come in for any number of special projects, and they help to outfit with supplies and can augment with staff as well.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I always got ideas. You gotta watch my show.
No, that's great.
Just kidding.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
No. 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 I'm sorry. We'll fix it one day.
That's okay. Valerie Smith, right now, from the Brawley Chamber, South Plaza. This Saturday, we're having our pulled pork fundraiser. It's for our repair of our lodge roof. It's been in since 1926, so 91 years. That building has been there, so we need to do a little repair and maintenance. So I've got tickets, $10 a piece, pulled pork. I know our mayor for the day has already purchased 5 of them from me, just gigging you guys a little bit. So hopefully you guys can come out, support us, and come by, see us. We strive to help the community as far as scholarships, Teen of the Month, Teen of the Year. And then, of course, youth is always our number one, along with veterans. So we thank you all for the things that you do, and just hope that you guys can come out on Saturday from 11 to 2, a pulled pork fundraiser. They're supposed to have music, and of course, the public's invited. So thank you very much.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
do you want
This
to give
way.
us your phone number for contact?
Sure, 760-427-9500.
And maybe I didn't hear, but just confirming, just for the public, the cost of the ticket, is it $10?
$10.
$10 a ticket.
And it's for the,
Our roof repair,
okay.
our fundraiser for our roof repair. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She was talking kind of
Anyone
fast.
else for public comment? No? Okay, so we continue. Introduction of Stephen Mireles, Water Distribution and Sewer Collection Systems.
So we have a series of new employees that we'll be introducing to you this evening and to the community. Stephen Sullivan is serving as our acting city engineer for the next week. So we're happy for him to join the council meeting tonight and introduce a new employee.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'd like to introduce Stephen Mireles as our new Water Distribution and Sewage Collection System Operations Supervisor. He's a Brawley native, went to high school in Imperial, and got his bachelor's at Berkeley. And now we are fortunate enough to have him. Stephen.
Congratulations.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, and of course, members of the public. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to serve the city that I grew up in, the city that I care about, and I really enjoy the fact that I'm going to be able to provide back to my hometown. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I mean, welcome aboard. We're really glad to have you, and sounds like just would like to get to obviously know a little bit more in the future personally, but great background, and the key is we always like to see locals, so
Thank you.
welcome back.
Congratulations, Stephen. Look forward to working with you, and I know you're going to do well.
Thanks, sir.
Good roots there. So.
Congratulations, Stephen.
Thank you very much.
Welcome aboard.
And also this evening, we have Pat Dorsey, our Parks and Recreation Director, who will be doing another introduction.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Temp, council members, staff. I would like to introduce Anthony Padilla. You can come up here, Anthony. Anthony has been with the city off and on for about 3 years as a general laborer. We had the opportunity to hire him as a full-time employee. He's a maintenance worker now, and he would like to say a few words. He's so tickled, though. He's just smile all the time. He'd like to say a few words.
Thank you, Councilman, for giving me this opportunity for working here. Brawley native since '82, and Army veteran as well. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
And next we have our Police Chief, Kelly Brown.
evening, council, staff, and those in attendance. Kelly Brown, Interim Chief of Police. So tonight is a particularly special night for me. Not only do I get to introduce 2 new officers, but they happen to be twins, if it wasn't obvious.
See that.
We were seeing double here.
So another part of this evening that's special for me is it was 15 years ago today that I was sworn in as a police officer with the city of Brawley as well. So I get to share this event with them as well. So Jake and Jesse Uhas joined the police department on April 25th of this year. They are currently going through the process of our intensive field training program, which subjects them to all kinds of aspects of police work with a senior officer. They've joined us from the San Diego area where they were born and raised in El Cajon, graduated from Granite Hills High School in 2012. So if you do the math, yes, they're ripe young age of 23. So after graduating high school, they both attended junior college. Both have expressed a calling to police work, put themselves through the police academy at Southwestern Police Academy, graduated in December of 2015. So with that being said, it's my honor and privilege to introduce Jake and Jesse Uhas.
Evening. I'm Jesse. I just want to thank you guys on my behalf of having me here tonight. Like Chief said, from San Diego, graduated Southwestern College Police Academy, where Chief Brown himself graduated. And I was fortunate enough to be hired here in Brawley, not only by myself, but with my best friend and my twin brother, Jake. Brawley has significant things they have to offer all their police officers, but something that interests me is the helicopter task force team. So I'm eager to progress in my training and become an experienced officer where I could apply for task force such as that. On my off time, I spend it with my family back in San Diego, who have been there throughout this whole process and supportive. So thank you again for having me, and it's a pleasure being here.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you're in good hands here with the task force, so.
Are you the spokes brother, or is that no? No.
He talks also.
Yeah.
Evening. I'm Jake. Again, thank you guys. It's an honor to be a part of the community. My short time here, it's something that extremely stands out. It's no secret, but the family bond of the community of Brawley, the welcomeness of everyone is incredible. We've felt nothing less than part of the family and the team since day one. And I thank you guys for welcoming us with open arms. And I look forward to what Brawley has to offer me and what I have to offer Brawley. So thank you guys.
Congratulations.
God bless both of you. Thank you.
So one other fact that I failed to mention is they're both scheduled to get off of training later this month, where they'll go into the patrol as a solo officer. So, and both are doing exceptionally well within the program. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Congratulations to
Welcome
you,
aboard,
Chief.
yeah.
We'll wave it.
Chief, congratulations to you as well.
Thank you guys.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have our Fire Chief, Chuck Peraza.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Pro Tem, council members, community. It's my pleasure to introduce our new firefighter, Martin Melendez. Martin actually joined the department in 2013 as a call-paid firefighter. He was recently hired just this last June of 2017. Martin's background, he is a Brawley native. He was born and raised here and graduated out of here at Brawley High School. He did attend our local fire academy where he graduated with his EMT certification and his Firefighter 1 certification as well. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Martin Melendez.
Hi, good evening. I'm just thankful for the opportunity. I look forward to working for the city of Brawley.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Is that it? That's it. Very good.
Okay, we continue on with number 3, consent agenda. Items are approved by one motion. Council members or members of the public may request consent items to be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda
I'll second.
as written.
It has been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Approve resolution number 2017, resolution of the City Council of the City of Brawley, California, indicating program income funds to supplement the C. Am I in the wrong?
Yes. Yeah, it's part of the
Oh, I'm
consent.
sorry. Okay, that's my consent agenda.
We'll jump down to item 5, which is regular business, and I'll ask that our acting city engineer, Stephen Sullivan, step into the chambers, please. Thank you.
Good evening. The item you have before you is an award of a construction contract to Masters Construction for a sidewalk project we're going to do. The bid amount was $284,420. Within this item, there's also an authorization for a 10% contingency. So the project is funded through a CMAQ grant. It's Fed money overseen by Caltrans. The grant pays at 88.53% with a local match of 11.47. The sidewalk project is going to be, the majority of the work is on East C Street, on the north side of the street between Best and Eastern. We're also going to do a piece of sidewalk on Imperial Avenue on the west side, between Flaming and River. It's where that dirt lot is. And the last piece is on Malin, immediately south of Hidalgo Elementary School, between Vine and Chavez. Mostly sidewalk, new concrete sidewalk, but there are some accessibility ramps and driveways type stuff, curb and gutter. And if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anyone? We're just happy that all this is getting done.
Yep. I just want to add the comment and congratulations also to Masters Constructions. It's always obviously a good thing when our, not just local, but very local, are from our own city contractors. So I know, speaking on behalf of council, we're all happy to see that and taking advantage of, again, another grant opportunity. So thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
If there's no questions, I would like to make a motion for approval.
I'll second.
It's been moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, ladies. Okay. Discussion and staff direction regarding City of Brawley utility user tax.
And Mayor Pro Tem Noriega, this item will be led by our Finance Director and Treasurer, Ruby Walla. We do have a brief PowerPoint.
Am I there? I don't know.
You've got it.
That one?
It's hard to see. Yes.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Ruby Walla, Finance Director. This item this evening is to get, as we've been talking about it actually through our whole budget process, mid-year budget review, strategic planning, budget discussions, and of course through the adopted budget. Utility user tax for the city of Brawley. And what we're looking at is basically tonight having discussion and getting council direction on proceeding with the utility user tax, which is due to expire May 31st, 2018, in hopes of getting it on the ballot for this upcoming November. So the goals of the discussion this evening, of course, is to get staff direction. It's scheduled to expire May 31st, 2018. The current rate is 4%. And it's assessed on water, sewer, trash, electricity, gas, cable television, and telephone. The extension that we're currently in, which expires on May 31st, 2018, was voter approved on November 8th, 2011. And that was a 5-year extension. So the direction we're getting tonight is renewal. Do we proceed with the renewal? Knowing, as we've talked, that in our current fiscal year, our revenues under the current utility user tax renewal is only through May 31st, 2018, leaving us 1 month shy in this fiscal year. The utility user tax is a significant revenue source for the general fund. It equates to about 13% of the general fund revenue, so it's a significant source at $1.9 million in annual revenue projected for this current fiscal year. Utility user tax has been in effect since 1992 for the city of Brawley. Other discussion, the rate continue at 4%. And at 4%, just to highlight, will sustain existing utility user tax general fund revenue, tend to maintain as best possible city service levels. However, as we discussed through the budget process, even with the utility user tax, we still do face an operational deficit. So we identify that, but we are in need of the utility user tax. So that's already a component. If you recall, during our budget, we have a small operational deficit, and that encompasses the offset of the existing revenue. In 1992, it was implemented at 5%, and then in 1996, it was later reduced to 4%, and that has been the constant rate for the city of Brawley in its renewals and its efforts for utility user tax. The other component is the term. We've been extending the term in 5-year increments. Is that the path that the city wants to continue? That would be proposed as an expiration date of May 31st, 2023, if we continue with the extension. In 1998, when it went to the voters, it was extended to June 1st, 2008. In 2005, it was extended to June 1st, 2013. And in 2011, that's when it was extended to May 31st, 2018. Now, the other topic is modernization, which is the topic that we've discussed early on in our budget discussions when we had mid-year budget review, recognizing the decline in utility user tax. Councilmember Nava highlighted and had the interest in inquiries of looking at city revenues, looking at we did have water conservation measures that was in effect for the decline, but we also looked at new technologies that came into play for the city of, overall, for new technologies, meaning streaming, prepaid calling, cell phones, which is a big highlight, which the city's utility user tax currently is not assessed on. We only assess cable television and landline telephones per our ordinance. So with that, we're seeking council direction to modernize the ordinance. And recently, we currently engage with Muni Services, and I have a consultant here, that they specialize with assisting and updating the ordinances and coordinating and capturing these new technologies. Mr. Robert Hamoud is here today, so if there's any additional questions that you may have after I've gone through my presentation, he's more than happy to come up and answer any of council's questions regarding modernization. So what that would mean is modernization, updating the ordinance on capturing new technologies, like I described, cell phones, prepaid phones, and anything else out there that has expanded and that we're allowed to expand within the modernization. What that does is it achieves fairness amongst all taxpayers. If you recall somewhat in our conversations when we reevaluated this, was that someone today could have a landline, or some people are not even having telephone lines anymore and moving to a cell phone. So basically, I have a landline, I pay the tax, my neighbor doesn't have it, so they're basically exempt from the tax because they don't have a landline, they use a cell phone as their means of telephone communication, which is kind of today's nature. So with that being said, is that we'd have the ability, by capturing these additional technologies, it will give us an increase in revenues. However, something to contemplate as we move forward, and if council is in the position to expand and modernize our ordinance, is look at a variable of rates. We can move forward with the modernization with the similar tax at 4%. Look at modernization at a decreased rate, not so much since we're expanding the ordinance to get new technologies. We would then reduce, say, include those new technologies and the offset of those new technologies, which would be for cable television and telephone, and reduce that rate while introducing the new. And we can go at a rate of 3.5%, 3.75% as a trade-off, so that we smooth it out, because in concept, you think of the individual that has a landline and a cell phone, they're going to be getting taxed twice. Basically, they were only getting taxed on the landline. but we're interested. But what it does, if you reduce it, it will smooth it out to where they are not paying any more than what they were before, if this expanding the ordinance. So based on some rough numbers, by modernizing the ordinance, if it was at a 3.5%, we would look at increased annual revenues about $45,000 a year. If we have a rate of 3.75%, we're looking at additional revenue of $126,000. If we kept it constant with all other utilities at 4%, that's an additional $207,000. So even with the decreased rate, we're expanding and capturing new technologies, but we're still growing in some fashion. So overall, we are wanting direction from council on these specific categories: the renewal to proceed, the rate for both continued, basically our traditional utility user tax utilities, and then the rate looking at how to address modernization and the authorization to give staff direction to move forward in modernization, and the term of this new measure to proceed forward. And with that, we will get together with the consultant and our city attorney, and as well as our consultant's legal team, to get the ordinance updated in a fashion that will reflect council's direction. And prior to that, what we are planning to do is with this direction tonight, is move forward with ballot language, appropriate ballot language, so we can move forward with the filing as required by the county, which their deadline is August 11th. So we have a proposed meeting date of July 25th, which will be next Tuesday, that the city, in connection with the consultant, will work to have that draft language based on council's direction this evening.
Okay, discussion and questions are open. Anyone?
Just with respect to modernization, I would not be in favor of supporting adding additional taxes to cell phones and other uses. It is a utility user tax, and it's taxed accordingly. I realize that we have a decrease in funding from landlines and cable television, but I would not be in favor of adding additional avenues for collection of tax. I'm still in support of the utility user tax. I believe we need it, but I'm not in favor of adding additional utilities or so-called utilities to the tax.
I do, yeah. And under modernization, the other question, are there any other categories other than cell phones? Is there anything else that was identified when you talk about that?
Our consultant
I
will
would
be,
assume
yeah, he has,
the bulk of
they
it
have
is
more,
cell
there's
phones.
he has a list of.
Robert Hamoud with Muni Services. There's what we call it modernization. It depends. I mean, some cities don't even have the extent that you have as far as what you're taxing right now on utility users tax. With modernization, you have different options. When we say modern technologies, we're looking at ordinances where we rewrite them to expand it to modern technologies, and that's a broad term. It's focusing on wireless. And we had interpretations from the State Board of Equalization on what would be part of that modern technology. Over-the-top television, so you go and you buy an Amazon streaming or Netflix streaming, that would apply. AB 1717 was a bill that passed about 2 years ago, which allowed prepaid wireless plans, prepaid wireless phones, for that to apply. And then pretty much anything that's technology-based within that. You could write your ordinance or structure your ordinance to have exemptions to that if that's what you're looking for. Okay. So it is flexible in that measure.
Got it. Thank you. And then the last, and I know, Ruby, you've brought this up in the past, as we've obviously discussed utility user tax progressively here for quite a while now, or at least through the budget process. What do you I don't know if you have it off the top of your head, what is the amount of the utility user tax of the roughly 1.9 million per year? How much of that is telephone, landline?
Based on the summary I presented to City Council, not so much the 1.9, but I did a 2016 summary early on during our budget discussions when I came back. And of that, we had, in telephone lines was 56,000.
Okay. And if I can recall, I didn't remember the exact number, but I knew it was relatively small versus all the rest of the utilities. So,
Correct.
okay, thank you.
And I just had if we were even to consider trying to capture the other, like the cell phones and streaming and so forth, what cost would be involved in capturing that? I mean, would there be some type of cost in trying to get that implemented?
Well, what we would do is be engaging with the consultant, and that would just be in the effect of updating the ordinance to reflect the proper language, to have that enforced. In connection with the consultant, they've also provided their services as far as making sure all utilities that the city needs to have their ordinance enforced by are notified and are properly implementing our ordinance.
So, our staff direction would be probably to wait and get some more information, or what would?
Well, I'm actually, I would like to go ahead and state that I am in favor of pursuing the utility tax. I'm not really too convinced either about pursuing the new technology, but I am definitely in support of pursuing the renewal of the utility tax, and I would probably be in favor of just extending it at 4% at this point.
For a similar term, 5 years?
Or,
that's
Ruby, you indicated that it had been extended 5 years, but based on some of the dates you gave us or years you gave us, some of them looked like they were longer.
That was prior to, let me pull it up. That was in 1998, and from the data that I have, it extended it to 2008. And I didn't have the actual expiration that was taken, because in 1996, that was when the rate was decreased from 5 to 4, but I could not identify in the ordinance or the resolution of that action what the actual term was prior to 2008. So that basically went to the voters in 1998 with an extension of 2008. Similar to when it went, if you look at it, went to the voters in 2011 through if they just look at those numbers. But it's because in between there was the expiration of 2013, which the city positioned itself to have potentially 2 times to go at it in the event that it failed.
So is there a possibility that we could look at a different number of years?
There is.
Extending it?
There's kind of an interesting tidbit of history in Brawley. So when the utility user tax was first established, it was established without a sunset. And then there was a legal challenge to the tax, and the city decided at that time to proceed with a sunset. So the sunset was pursued and established. Meanwhile, the case that was brought against the city was not successful. But on a going forward basis, the city has used a sunset clause as an end date. One of the advantages in regional discussions is the chance to talk with other jurisdictions and how they're managing this issue. In Imperial Valley, we have one other city with a utility user tax, which is the city of Holtville. And Holtville's rate structure is at 5% of utilities with no sunset. So it's up to the council to determine what that term is, whether it's with a sunset or without a sunset, and if it is a sunset, on what term basis.
And if I could add a comment, we have many members of the public here. With respect to the current utility user tax, I know I've built a calculator in the past, and I even showed my own expenses, my own home expenses, to include natural gas, electrical charges, water, sewer, trash service. It's costing me approximately 45 cents per day. So that's what the charge is. It's about $165 a year that I'm paying in utility charges. So again, adding to that, if I were to have the cell expenses or cell phone expenses, internet, wireless services, and things like that, I would not be in favor of that. But I am willing to support the current structure of the utility user tax. And I think it's been suggested to extend it 5 years. I would be in support of that. And just on a residential level, at least for me, it's costing me approximately 45 cents a day to support that effort. So
And just so people can kind of relate, because a lot of times people say, well, how much is it per month, as an example? And it averages about $12 to $13 a month,
It was about
correct?
$13.50 a month.
That's what your, an average of what people are paying right now, $12 to $13 a month. So if we were to extend it, you could expect for that to continue if we don't add anything else, such as that new technology. So that's just to give everybody an idea of what you could expect. A lot of people don't even realize that they're paying it. I've been talking to people in the community, and a lot of people don't realize that they're even paying that, and they're thinking that this is going to be a new tax. It is not a new tax. You're currently paying it, and you're probably paying about that amount or maybe less in most cases.
So what I'm hearing,
Yeah, I was
You
going
have
to
something else?
summarize. It sounds like I'm just echoing in with the term, the amount, and
Okay.
of moving forward.
okay, so what I'm hearing is we're going to move forward for the 4%, letting the staff direction go ahead with the utility tax at 4% for 5 years.
Okay, so based on, and leaving it in the form that it is in terms of what it applies to, that's the consensus of the
Yes.
council. So at the next council meeting on the 25th, the final ballot language will be presented. Council will be asked to take action on it, and then we'll submit that final ballot language to the county for inclusion in the November
ballot.
election cycle.
Any other discussions, questions? No? Okay, thank you, Ruby. Thank
you.
Thank you.
Oh, Ruby,
Stay right there.
city treasurer's report?
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Ruby Walla, City Treasurer. The item is also in connection with the upcoming election for, not highlighted, but however, an item of discussion is that the treasurer's position. I currently hold the appointed position after the unfortunate passing of Mr. Miranda. Council appointed me at that time. Prior to that, the position was discussed as far as do we want it to be an elected position or an appointed position, and this was conversation brought about by our prior treasurer, Mr. Jim Hamilton. As he was on his way out, he disclosed, that he felt that it should be held more of an appointed position versus an elected position, and just the experience in his role overall. So at that time, we could not, or it wasn't beneficial to run a position, to an open elected position concurrent with another ballot measure or action for voter approval as far as would the vote for a position for someone running for a seated position, and then also running a vote basically saying, do you want it appointed or elected? And the unfortunate case would be that person would successfully get the elected position, and then the voters also had the opinion, go ahead and appoint it. So we didn't want to run that concurrent to waste the dollars of a citizen running for a campaign and so forth. So tonight, we're saying, would the council like to move forward? And we would like to bring that language to move forward take it to voters on the city treasurer position for their vote and their opinion. Basically, would they like the city treasurer position to remain elected or to run it as an appointed position, which would be an appointment at the discretion of the city council?
And this item isn't on for action tonight. It's just to give you a preview of an item at next council meeting on the 25th. And we're open to receiving feedback. If the consensus of the council is not to move forward with presenting that question to the residents of Brawley, that's fine too, but we'll have the language ready to go if it is the wish of the council.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions?
Nope.
No? Okay, thank you, Ruby. Okay, council member reports. Norma? Okay, let's see.
It seems like we haven't met in a while, right?
It has
Seemed
been.
like a longer, because we had the 4th of July in there that. We were invited by the Brawley Union High School Migrant Ed Summer Academy to do presentations for the students. And a few of us council people were able to attend. George, myself, and Sam were able to attend. and provide the students with, they wanted to know a little bit of our background since we're alumni of Brawley Union High School, and they wanted to know what our path was to public office and the role of the city, and then they wanted us to provide them with some words of encouragement. And so it was very nice. We had quite a few students there. I would say probably about 100 students was my estimate. They were very receptive to our presentation, and they had quite a few questions. So I really enjoyed doing that, and look forward to continuing to speak to the students at the high school, at the colleges. I also attended the IID presentation for our summer. The IID every year annually has been giving the cities a grant for our parks and recreation activities, which are more welcome than anything else, especially for our kids to be able to enjoy our swimming pools and our parks. So I was able to attend that also on the 27th of June. And then on July 6th, I attended one of the Brawley Chamber mixers at our Clínicas de Salud del Pueblo, which was very nice. I zoomed in from San Diego and made it at the tail end, but I have to say that I was able to make it, and very supportive, of course, of our Clínicas de Salud del Pueblo. They provide a lot of excellent services throughout Imperial County and other surrounding counties. So that was my few weeks off. Thank you.
Thank you. Story.
Thank you. All I have to report, I did take advantage of a little bit of vacation time, so very enjoyable. As much as I love Brawley, I heard it was 120 degrees for a few of the days that I was gone, but of course I'm back. Outside of that, our efforts, I've been working very closely with Councilmember Nava on really pushing and putting together and promoting the upcoming speed networking that was mentioned already by our Chamber Executive Director. But again, noteworthy, we did have a nice little press conference, which was a great opportunity to get our motivational speaker out in front of our business public, our community, so they get a little taste of what's coming up. So July 31st, I'm just putting that back out there again. It might be mentioned again. I don't want to steal your thunder, George, as I probably just did, but I'll be making numerous calls and contacts, and I urge not just my fellow council members, but all members of public. If you're here, come on over, plug in, and be part of this. I think it's going to be really special, so excited about that. Other than that, I started swimming in the Line Center pool. I think, where's Miss Dorsey? She's not here, but, that's always interesting because I'm always happy I don't sink to the bottom, but I will say, any of us that do get to use our park facilities and all that, it does make me think, as I'm using them as a citizen, that we're very grateful that we have what we have. So again, thank you, everyone. Stay cool, and I look forward to getting through summer here pretty quick.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just a real quick update. I was also able to participate at the migrant education presentation with the Brawley Union High School students that are incoming. It was from freshman year to those going into their senior year, and it was about 100 students, along with Councilmember Howdiggy and Mayor Couchman. So I always find it to be an honor to share my story with the students. I was able to tell them where I come from. I was born in Mexicali, and my father was born under a tree in Mexico in 1929. So it's a story that I like to share. My father never had the opportunity to get a formal education, and having his son be able to serve on a city council in the United States, I think it's a great honor, and you don't get that opportunity in many countries around the world, so I think we're very privileged. And we were able to share those stories, and Mayor Couchman also shared his past. He was born in Mexicali as well. He was adopted and raised here in the city of Brawley. So many people don't know that just by looking at him, and I think when people see that of him, they realize that everybody comes from a very unique background. So it's always an honor to share my story and share my thoughts with young students. I was happy to be able to do that. Aside from that, also was able to attend several meetings representing the city of Brawley, and I of course participated at the press conference for our upcoming event July 31st at the Lion Center here in the city of Brawley. I'm excited about it. It's a unique opportunity for not just business people, but for people from throughout the valley to get some inspiration. There's a motivational speaker that will be there who's unlike other motivational speakers that you may be familiar with. He's got a shaved head like myself, but he's got some tattoos, and he's got a really strong bark and a bite, and I think he's really going to get people pumped up and excited. So looking forward to seeing that event develop, and just want to thank everybody for coming out for the public hearing. And I know it's not often that you come out and engage with the city, but I'm glad that you're here today, and we'll move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. I was not here for a couple of these meetings here because I was at the League of California Mayors and Council Members getting some ideas and things for our city, and I will be sharing with my council members and also with my city manager. There's also, I was also elected to the Association of California Cities Allied with Public Safety on the Board of Directors, so we have our meetings once a month, and it's a conference call, so we don't have to travel and spend a lot of money. We have once a year, we go up to Sacramento and meet with our assembly members and different congressmen and senators. And this month, in August, I will be going up to Sacramento for that meeting, and hopefully getting some grants for our police department or giving them ideas of what grants are being given. Also, just to remind everybody, we have a paint and wine on Friday from 6 to 9 at the Hidalgo Hall. It benefits Imperial Valley Cancer Support Group. So please support your cancer clubs. And I was also at a library board meeting this past Wednesday. We had a guest who didn't know how much our librarian worked and how many hours she put in and what it entailed to be a librarian. And he did not realize also that all the activities that this library of ours here in Brawley puts for our children. So we had a discussion, and she gave him a list of everything that we did. Also, he wanted to know what our senior citizens, what kind of activities we had. So my city manager brought over a long list for him so he can broadcast it. So with that, there will be a presentation for Imperial Valley businesses of all sizes. We have the California Compete Tax Credit, and it will teach or give ideas to our businesses of how much money there is out there so they can get a tax credit. And it's going to be from 11 a.m. to 12 at the Fairfield Inn by Marriott at 503 East Dannenberg Drive in El Centro. Also, I passed by the splash pad, and it's going strong. I had a very young lady, she's probably about 6 or 7, call me the couple of days ago and said, Mrs. Noriega, I just want you to thank the city council for putting that splash pad. My sister and I live in El Cajon, my grandparents live here, so during the summertime we come down and we hadn't had very much to do. But now we want her to take us every day because we just really love it. So she wanted me to thank the rest of you. So that's what I'm doing. And that is it. Go forward. We have city manager's report.
Nothing further at this time.
Okay, thank you. City attorney report. City clerk report.
Nomination periods opened up yesterday for city council.
Okay.
It closes August 11. And the 2 incumbents do not seek papers. It extends an additional 5 calendar days till August 16th.
Okay. And they can start campaigning.
You can start putting signs up July the 25th.
Okay.
All that, there's a packet available.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we are ready for the public hearing. We're open. And we are having the presentation for the Brawley Mobile Home Park located at 650 South Brawley Avenue.
Okay. And Mayor Pro Tem Noriega, if I may, I'm going to step down to the front to do a brief overview of the item that's before the council today. I want to encourage all of our community members, if they don't have copies of documents, there are copies available in English and Spanish, and as well the report, as well as the staff background that was prepared for the agenda packet. So if anybody's interested, it is here and available, and we're happy to help distribute that.
Okay. Does anyone need a copy? Okay.
And if we could maybe raise our hands if anybody has a seat next to them that's open, and we can be sure that folks have a place to sit and can be comfortable. Great. Wonderful.
You may also stand in the back if there's no seats. There's a couple right here. Hay dos asientos. Or one right there. One?
Pásale, por favor.
I think we have 1, 2, maybe 3 left. Is there anybody else you want to come in? We have a couple more seats in here. Okay.
Any more? No? Okay.
Okay, so the item before us today is a proposed closure of the Brawley Mobile Home Park and a relocation assessment that's been prepared for the city's consideration. So the Brawley Mobile Home Park is located on Brawley Avenue at 650 South Brawley Avenue, and just a general overview of the site, there are 47 spaces that are a part of the park and 44 housing units that have been occupied on site. The average age of the units on premises is 45 years. And nearly a year ago, just 1 month shy of a year ago, we had a fire incident at the property that resulted in power being shut off due to safety concerns at the property. So following that August 2016 event, residents were displaced. The council is well acquainted with the efforts that were undertaken at the regional level to help pull together with the school districts, with the County of Imperial, with any number of support organizations, Campesinos Unidos. A number of nonprofits joined us in trying to make resources available to residents. At this time, the property is in escrow. The buyer of the property is AMG and Associates, and the seller of the property is Peter and Ming Fook Wu, who are here this evening with us. There is an intent for this property to not only close the park, but to pursue a future zone change and land use designation change that will take it from mobile home park to commercial use. And at this time, the commercial use is generally known as general commercial and for potential retail services. That zone change and land use change will, like any other normal process before the city, have to go to the Planning Commission first. The Planning Commission would consider that zone change and forward a recommendation to the council for its consideration. Those public hearing dates would be at a future time. What's on the agenda today is the needs assessment that was performed, as well as a mitigation plan for closure of the park. So included in the report that was prepared by Locale Consulting, the relocation assistant, relocation consultant that is assisting AMG, there is a methodology presented. And you can look at this methodology as defining 3 types of residents. And so this first scenario, which I thought would be helpful to highlight, is that which involves the movement of an owner-occupied unit. So if a resident owns their unit and it is in a state from the point of view of age and status, that it could be moved into another park and another park would accept it. The relocation study indicates that one way to address that scenario would be to mitigate relocation by providing up to $6,500 for a single wide unit, or up to $13,000 for a double wide unit. Single and double, $6,500 and $13,000. In addition to that, during the time in which the unit is being moved, the developer proposes to pay up to $100 a day for up to 3 days during the transition period. In addition to movement of the unit, the developer proposes to pay the lowest of 2 quotes for moving personal items. These would be the items that are in the interior of the unit. And either 2 quotes, the lower of 2 quotes would be presented to the developer for payment, or a $500 allowance would be provided for self-move. So this is the first scenario of moving a unit that's owner-occupied that can be moved to another park. The second scenario that's presented in the relocation impact report is a non-movable owner-occupied unit. Now, this status is really the large majority of units that are in the park. And one of the challenges with the park and the units that are currently in it are the age of the units that are contained within the park. And the age and state of those units has rendered many of them not movable. So what the proposed methodology in the relocation impact report presents is mitigation that consists of 1 year's rent differential plus moving costs. Now, what does that mean? That means they take the rent that was being paid for the space rental at the mobile home park, and either a market rate for the size of family that's been displaced or the actual rate of rent is used to calculate the difference. So the difference over 12 months would be paid out to the tenant of the non-movable owner-occupied unit. Similar to the prior scenario, you see that the lower of 2 quotes for moving personal items or a $500 self-move allowance would be provided. We then go into kind of a subset of the non-movable owner-occupied unit, and that is the unit itself. A certified and licensed appraiser has been out to evaluate every unit on site, and I am hopeful that all of our residents here today understand that a value has been assigned to each of those units, and the relocation consultant and developer are available to meet with them and provide to them a copy of what that value is. If a person owns their unit and it cannot be moved, and if a resident agrees to dispose of the unit, the appraised value will be paid to the resident. In addition, a payment of $500 will be provided.
I have a question if I could ask.
Yes.
The ranges of the values, do we have a range of values?
Yes. If you provide me one moment, I'll pull that. Going from memory, the lowest value unit was $500. The highest value unit was $11,350.
And the one previous to that?
Okay, and the one previous to that, if you take that out as an outlier, because that particular unit had greater square footage than the others, you see values in the 4,500 to 4,600 range. Okay. So in this scenario, we described it as a subset. How is the unit going to be treated if the owner-occupied unit owner is ready to dispose of the unit? They could scrap it, they could dismantle it in whatever fashion they choose. They'll be paid for the value of the unit, plus the $500. If a resident does not choose to dispose of the owner-occupied unit, The first bullet still applies, where they pay the 12-month differential over, they pay the differential between existing space rent and either market rate or actual rate for the 12-month period. And then the lower of quotes for moving personal items, or $500 for the self-move allowance. Does anybody have questions on this scenario? Because this one is probably the most prevalent form throughout the park, given that the majority of the units are owner-occupied. Okay. Scenario 3, this is the non-movable rental unit. So this is for tenants to the park that are renters of their units. The developer and relocation consultant proposed to mitigate relocation, even though they don't have to for this particular classification. They proposed to mitigate relocation for a value not to exceed $2,000 and to take into consideration moving costs and rental assistance. Okay, does anybody have, this is really the bulk of what's in the relocation impact report, is the proposed methodology. Okay, so tonight we brought to you a brief overview of what's in the report. We also have some content that AMG and Associates, as well as Locale Consulting, would like to make to you. Following that presentation, it is suggested that the City Council consider opening the public hearing if you don't have any further questions for AMG or city staff at that time. And you receive input from our members of the community. There are sign-in cards that are here and available to help with that process. And once the comments are all received, the council can then close the public hearing and move the item for discussion and potential action. The action proposed for this evening could include the mobile home park closure and approval and acceptance of the relocation impact report. So with acceptance and approval, I'm just going to go over a couple more items so that you understand where it would go from here. If the council were to choose to accept the report and the mobile home park closure this evening, the developer would provide a 6-month notice to relocate residents, and that would theoretically occur in August. It's estimated August, and site clearance would occur in the window of February 2018. That's also an estimated date. And you'll see these particular timeframes referenced in the report before you this evening. I don't want to lose the chance to explain the potential change in land use and zoning. While a application is not currently in hand, we have every expectation that it will move forward. We have a conceptual site plan that you'll see in the upper right, and a conceptual presentation of the various structures that could be a part of this property in the future. It is proposed at this early stage to be called Malin Plaza, and it consists of a number of commercial and retail spaces. And we have these elevations here to represent what that might look like in the future. And with that, I will hand off to our developer here, Cameron Johnson of AMG and Associates, and be available for further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rosanna. Is that, make sure this is okay here. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Cameron Johnson. I represent AMG and Associates, and we are the developer. I recognize these aren't ideal circumstances, and the last thing I want to do is come here and displace low-income families or reduce your affordable housing stock. Our primary focus as a developer is affordable housing. 80% of the projects that I'm currently developing in California are for low-income families and low-income seniors, 2 of which are in your community. But the reality of the situation is that we were introduced to this property back in February. So about 6 months after the park had already been shut down and all of the tenants had already been displaced. And what we learned early on was that the costs, the improvements that were needed and the costs associated with those improvements to bring the park back up to code and reopen it wasn't an economically viable option. And even if you could do that, you would only probably be able to net maybe 25 trailers. So you're looking at half the park going away regardless. So after careful consideration, we determined that the only way that we could really move forward with this project and this deal would be to purchase the property, purchase the property, close the park, and redevelop it into a commercial development. And the reason for that is that's the only way that we could add enough value to the deal to help pay for the relocation assistance that's outlined in the relocation report, which I'll have our consultant come up and discuss with you, along with pay for the demolition and the cleanup of the park. Those costs combined could exceed $500,000. So you're looking at basically $1 million investment that we're going to have to make, and it's a very risky and speculative endeavor, but we're willing to do it because we see a lot of potential and upside with this property. We think that part of town is sorely in need of walkable commercial amenities, which is what we're proposing. And so the action plan that we put together involved securing site control of the property, which is back in March. We then brought in a consultant, which is Lockout Consulting, to prepare a relocation impact report, which was done. We held a workshop for all of the tenants. We're before you today, and if you approve this closure, the next step would be for us to purchase the property and then begin implementing the steps as outlined in that relocation report, which we expect to take about 6 months. Our goal would be to have everybody taken care of and provided with new housing and have the site cleared of all of the trailers by February of 2018, at which point we would then begin marketing and trying to secure tenants for a commercial development. And, we are looking at nationally recognized tenants. I mean, we would like to see a pharmacy, a drive-through. We think it would be a great benefit to that part of town for the tenants in the Mayland Street apartments to be able to walk to a pharmacy, to a drive-through, to a coffee shop, a nail salon. That's what we're kind of looking for, and that's what we envision for the property. But as I said before, that was really the only way that we could make this deal work. And so the plan that we put together involves closing the park, providing as much assistance as we can to these families, and begin the development of the project. And it's not a perfect plan, but it's a plan, and it's a plan that we can begin implementing immediately to help provide assistance to these families that have been displaced for quite some time. And it's something that we would like to get started on right away. So with that, what I'd like to do is have Natasha come up and just kind of talk about the relocation impact report, answer any questions you guys have about that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Natasha Linich. I'm with Lockout Consulting. We provide relocation services.
Thank you.
Provide relocation services for various projects, affordable housing, public works, different services. And as we were contacted by AMG, by Cameron, back in probably March, he presented this park situation as a little bit unusual. It's not quite the same as we are used to. We usually come to the park and tenants or residents are there. And here was a different situation. So we started to contact everybody with basically a phone list and getting in touch with every person in the park to get information and to be able to assess their individual needs for the relocation, for the mitigation measures that will be required if this park were to close. So we've done that and prepared the report that is in front of us based on that. And because again, the unusual part is that all the tenants are not really living at their homes anymore. So we already have the good assessment of what would be the good market value for their replacement housing, because we already have actual units. So the costs can already be calculated that way, and the benefits can be provided with going forward if the park were to close, if you make that decision.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you.
Anybody?
My question is just focused on this section about the housing resources in that part of the report. And I just want to clarify, you have a table in there that breaks down for available housing costs. So it would be page 118 in our council packet. It's, I think it's number 8, page number 8 in the actual report itself. And it discusses just the table there. My only question was, under number found, under 1, 2, and 3, confirm me, what's that number? Number of apartments or actual house? Okay.
Yes, those are the units that we found at the time, being on the market and available for rent, because we are always looking at exactly that. We cannot just take a study, housing study that was prepared maybe some year before. We need to look at what's available right now if we were to go and look for a unit.
And look right now.
Yeah.
Very good. And then in the same section, just above that, in the actual text, you had some projected number of bedroom sizes, and I just want to clarify, of the number of residents that have already been presented to us, is that in fact, you have it specifically identified of how many of the family members would need what size housing? Is that?
Yes, our interviews that we've conducted with individual households requested the information of what they were in, which usually in trailers, those are very tiny.
Yeah.
So when you're going into conventional housing, you're looking at one bedroom being basically larger than what they had. So then we looked into if it's a larger family and they have, children, we would kind of upgrade them to a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, depending on the size of the family. So yes, we took that in account, and that's based on that we determined that what's needed is 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units.
Okay, and then it references just in the appendix, D. So when I go to the appendix, I look at D. What I'm trying to get my hands around is it shared anywhere in here the breakdown of each resident and family, the results of your interviews? I just wanted to get eyes on who's going where or what the move forward plan actually is specifically. Is that included in this report or no?
It's included to the point that nobody is at the park. So everybody is already...
Right, somebody, somewhere, right.
Yes. So if they have already found the unit where they're actually happy to stay in, and it's a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, whatever it is, so we did not really consider them anymore. I mean, it's something that we need to find the unit, or we wouldn't need to find the unit.
Natasha, what is the number of, has that been ascertained as far as the actual number of residences that still need?
I would have to check. That is not part of, we did not go into detail of that because it's in the report is in the aggregate form, so no, you wouldn't find like the number. But just from the memory, I would say about probably good 60-65% of displaced tenants are already in housing units. The others would be possibly in, like with family or somewhere, still in kind of just staying temporarily, thinking they are coming back. So that is my recollection. But we could be providing that information.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it seems like a high percentage that are already are placed in the homes that they want to be. Because in speaking to quite a few of them, they were still waiting to find out what was going to happen. So I'd be surprised to know that it's probably less than that, but.
Well, they would all prefer to go back if that was the option, if the park was to
Oh, absolutely.
But
what I'm saying, in a home that they all fit, I know that some of them could not find, money-wise, they could not find big enough apartment or big enough housing, but, okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, I kind of was wondering the same thing, because I know a lot of them probably may have moved in possibly with relatives or something on a temporary basis. So are those included in that 65% that they already are living somewhere, or are those still kind of waiting for?
I think that they're excluded, meaning 65 is the ones that are in apartment units that they can afford or that they are currently paying for. So, I mean, we did not ask where they went, but we did ask if they are in a temporary situation, like a hotel or with relatives. So I would think that it's about 35 to 40% of such that are with family.
And they're waiting, so they're still waiting
They're
for a
waiting to
decision.
see what happens with
Okay,
them.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other?
Just a straw poll here. Can you raise your hand if you're not in a permanent location at this time? There's one, at least one person here? Okay, thank you. There's a couple, okay.
Well,
Okay.
can we,
Everybody?
they had to ask a question. Can you, oh,
So let me ask the question again. If you're not in permanent housing and you're in transition, maybe living with family or friends, can you please raise your hand? Okay, so there's a few of them.
so a lot of people are,
Thank you very much.
so it's more than 35%, sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem Noriega, if I may suggest to the council, City Attorney Bill Smurden did assist with preparation of the staff report, and prior to opening the public hearing, it might just be helpful to get a quick bird's eye view of the items that are within the purview of the council. So as you hear the input, you can begin to, perhaps formulate some solutions.
Earlier.
I'm sorry?
I thought the public hearing had already been opened.
Okay.
We opened it, but you had to do your presentations and stuff, and then we'll have them come up. I have several sheets here, speakers that, yeah.
So Bill, I don't know if you had any other guidance you wanted to offer.
Well, I did provide a staff report, and council, the legislature's tasked city councils in a situation like this to review these impact reports and determine whether or not the proposed mitigation for relocation is sufficient. There's a limit to the amount of mitigation that a council can order, and that is the reasonable cost of relocation. Council doesn't have the authority to order owners to rehab the park, bring it back to code. There's only really one reported case on this statute, and the case said that people in the mobile home park business have a right to go out of business. And when they close their park, the condition is that the city has the right to order these owners to pay relocation mitigation assistance, and that's what we're on for tonight. City of Brawley does not engage in code enforcement action on mobile home parks. We never have. That's a county function, so we really can't order the owners to bring the park up to code, put everybody back. It's unfortunate, but that's not something that the city council has the right to do.
For the public's benefit too.
Thank you, Bill.
You bet.
Any other questions?
One other brief comment for the council's benefit and members of the public. The city is in receipt of an official comment letter from California Rural Legal Assistance, and there are copies of that letter here on the dais as well as available for the public.
Okay. All right, so now I will open it up to comments, and my first person is Maria Garcia. Come on up. Just a reminder while Maria's coming up, we're open to hear your comments. You have 4 minutes. And your opinion matters. Please keep your comments to 4 minutes, like I said. Please try not to repeat. We all want to hear everyone's concerns.
Buenas noches a todos. Mi nombre es María García. Yo les voy a decir unos puntos de los cuales hemos estado sufriendo los inquilinos de ahí, y son unos puntos por el cual estamos pasando. Nos está afectando el habernos sacado del parqueadero de una manera muy fea y triste, mental y económicamente, por el cual estamos pasando mucho estrés, depresiones. Nosotros no queremos movernos del parqueadero porque nosotros no podemos pagar más renta porque porque las rentas están muy altas. Nosotros no tenemos necesidad de pagar más renta, teniendo nuestras trailers, aunque sean pobremente, porque es culpa del Señor, porque Él ya sabía lo que estaba mal ahí, nunca nos hizo caso. Nosotros los residentes queremos que las trailers sean reparadas o reemplazadas.
María, un momento. So are we going to have the English interpretation?
I can summarize the comments.
So perhaps we could have Councilmember Nava, if you're willing to.
Sure, I'll just summarize the comments just very briefly. She is stating that they suffered economically, and it's been a very stressful situation. They can't afford to pay higher rent, and they are asking that the units be repaired or replaced, and that they're not wanting to relocate to a different location. They want to continue to live at the mobile home facility.
Thank you.
Y así es que, por lo tanto, queremos que reparen el parqueadero. Todos, de preferencia, queremos quedarnos en Brawley. Si nos tenemos que moverlas, va a costar mucho más de lo que nos están ofreciendo. Queremos lo justo por todos los daños que pasamos desde el momento que nos llevaron al hotel y luego al motel y hasta hoy día.
María,
Just
you okay with
sure that they want to remain in Brawley, and they don't wish again to move outside of the mobile home facility. So
And they want to remain in Brawley.
yeah. I'm taking notes as we go.
Yeah.
I'll summarize
At the
as
end.
the end. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Nava will summarize at the end.
Go ahead.
A nosotros nos están discriminando. ¿Por qué? Porque está otro parqueadero igual y ahí no hacen nada en cerrarlo, ya que quieren rejuvenecer el lugar ahí donde estamos nosotros. ¿Por qué no rejuvenecen ahí y está enfrente de la high school? O sea, si quieren rejuvenecer, que rejuvenezcan ahí. Hagan algo por nosotros, por favor. Eso.
Muchas gracias.
So she also stated she believes that the cost to relocate the units is far greater than what is being offered currently, and it's an unjust situation. And if we would consider renovating an area, we should consider the mobile home units next to the Brawley Union High School.
Okay. Next is Petra Escudero.
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry.
Yes.
As an interpreter, I need to communicate to you that we have distributed and offered simultaneous interpretation to English-only speakers. I feel that it's not necessary to repeat what's being said because I'm saying it in English already.
Perfect.
Oh, okay.
And
Does
we
anyone?
have,
Perfect.
receivers for the two people that we were informed that needed them.
Bill,
Yes.
Yeah.
In case you need them.
Yeah.
Bill
Thank
and
you.
Donnie. No, thank you. Anyone else in the audience needs from Spanish to English? No? Okay, thank you.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Petra Escudero. Nada más estoy de acuerdo en lo que dijo María García y también quiero poner el punto de que pues nos dicen que nos van a dar algo para ayudarnos para cuando vayamos a sacar nuestras cosas de ahí, pero han estado robando mucho. Ya han desmantelado algunas trailers. Una traila de mi sobrina, ella estaba quitando su cuarto, e incluso los mismos que le estaban robando, le digo yo, le estaban ayudando a quitar las paredes de su casa. O sea, no se me hace bien porque dijeron que iban a tener una persona que nos estuviera cuidando las trailas ahí las 24 horas y pues no sé qué es lo que está pasando. Y entonces, si nos van a ayudar, ¿a qué nos van a ayudar a no sacar nada? Porque cuando quieramos sacar lo que tenemos ahí, no va a haber nada. Y yo es lo que pido, que haya más vigilancia, porque pues si ya están las trailas, como dicen que no se pueden mover, y las van a querer mover cuando ya están todas destrozadas, pues va a estar peor. Y eso es lo que ese es el punto que yo quería poner, que pues que pongan la vigilancia las 24 horas, que tienen que andar, dicen que iba a haber rondín en la noche, que para estar cuidando, y no sé qué es lo que está pasando. Gracias.
Muchas gracias. Beatriz García.
Thank you. My name is Beatrice Garcia, and I'm a directing attorney at CRLA in El Centro, located at 449 Broadway Street in El Centro, California, and we represent the residents of the Brawley Mobile Park. First of all, I want to mention that the basic notice requirements of the mobile residency law have not been met. Under Government Code 798.56 G1, at least 15 days written notice that management will be appearing before local government board, commissioner, or body to request permits for change of use of the park has not been met. At least 3 residents did not receive notice of the applicant's change of use until Monday, July 3rd, which means today, July 18th, is the 15th day. Therefore, this notice requirement has not been met, and this public hearing should be continued. Standing, AMG and Associates does not have standing to submit the relocation impact report. They do not own, operate, or manage the park and have not formally submitted a development plan. Therefore, this public hearing should be continued until AMG and Associates has standing to submit this relocation report. The Brawley City Council should act immediately to order proper permitting and repair of the park and restore residents to their homes. The city and Imperial County have been aware of the substandard condition of the park for many years. Therefore, steps now should be taken and proper law enforcement should address the nuisance allowed to persist. The relocation impact report is not sufficient. It should be disapproved and would require substantial amendment because it does not adequately meet the requirements of Government Code Section 65863.7 and 65863.8 and California Civil Code Section 798.56. Because the relocation costs proposed in the relocation impact report are not reasonable and are inadequate to mitigate the adverse impact of the proposed park closure. The relocation impact report concludes that there is no likelihood of finding sufficient spaces for the mobile homes that will be displaced. Therefore, residents will not be able to relocate their homes, and no residents will be eligible for the reimbursement cost of moving their mobile homes as listed in the relocation impact report. The proposed mitigation measures in the report are not sufficient for the residents to purchase the mobile home or equivalent housing in a mobile home park. Replacement housing based on comparable mobile homes in Imperial County for a one-bedroom is at least $18,000. For a two-bedroom mobile home, it ranges between $25,000 and $54,000. The city should find that the relocation impact report is not sufficient and should require the person or entity to take additional steps to mitigate any adverse impact of the proposed park closure. For example, the proposed mitigation measures do not provide actual moving costs for residents. Therefore, the relocation impact report is inadequate. An appraisal report of the appraised off-site value of the mobile home is mentioned but not shown as an attachment. Therefore, it is not sufficient. It does not provide any information about the total potential benefit for each resident, leaving the city to guess as to how many residents will qualify for the different mitigation proposals in the report. The relocation impact report takes a narrow view of mitigation of adverse impact and relocation assistance. The adverse impact on the residents of the park is forcible displacement and losing their homes in the first instant and not having replacement homes. and they've been forced to rent elsewhere at a higher cost for many months. They also have moving expenses and have been unable to move their mobile homes. Government Code Section 65863.7 addresses mitigation requirements that the city may impose upon a mobile home park owner as a condition of a park closure. It allows the city to impose mitigation steps that are necessary to enable the displaced mobile home park residents to find adequate housing in a mobile home park. The government code also authorizes the city to place conditions on the closure of a mobile home park to mitigate any adverse impacts of the closure on the displaced residents that do not exceed reasonable cost of relocation. If, as here, the mobile homes cannot be moved and there are no spaces available that will accept them, then the reasonable cost of relocating the homeowners into adequate housing and a mobile home park will be the cost of purchasing a comparable mobile home that is already located in a comparable mobile home park, as Section 65863.7E so requires. The city should also consider alternatives to closing the park, such as rehabilitating the park or mixed-use commercial development that would benefit the park residents. In addition, the city should consider applying for the mobile home program rehabilitation and resident ownership program. There currently are funds available. The Housing Authority already operates a mobile home park in Brawley. The city should consider rehabilitating or relocating the mobile home park and have it owned and managed as a local agency or a nonprofit. The relocation impact report does not provide for reasonable relocation and does not adequately mitigate the adverse impacts of closure of the park. For instance, Section 65863.7E can include other benefits, such as the cost of relocating the replacement mobile home in comparable mobile home parks, including the first and last month's rent, security deposit, the cost of packing and unpacking their personal items and transportations of these new housing items to the new housing location, because these are clearly necessary relocation expenses. The current relocation report does not provide for last report housing. The proposed zoning change will have an adverse effect upon the goals and policies for provision of adequate housing for all segments of the community. The buyer has not put forth an adequate development proposal and has not applied for a rezone of the park. The city must consider the fair housing implications of displacement of an entire community of low-income Latino families. The city has a duty not only to prevent discriminatory effect, but to affirmatively further fair housing choice under federal and state fair housing law.
Your
Thank
4
you.
minutes are up.
Okay.
If you could just wrap it up.
Oh, sure. In conclusion, the first step the city should take is to require the current Brawley Mobile Park owner to make the necessary repairs to bring the park up to code and to provide decent, safe, sanitary park that is required by law. The second step the city should take is to prohibit permanent displacement of the residents without ensuring the development of a replacement park. The third step is the city should take is to apply for MPPROP funds to rehabilitate the park and repair or replace the individual homes.
Okay.
The fourth step, take
thank
it
you.
to consider. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
that was a summary. Thank you
Okay.
very much for your
Thank you.
time. Thank you.
Manuel González.
Buenas noches, señora. Mi nombre es Manuel González. Yo nomás quiero agregarle un poquito, ¿verdad? Que la causa que nos sacaron a nosotros del parqueadero no fue motivo por culpa de los residentes, sino que de las personas que manejan el parqueadero. Ya tenía varios años así el parqueadero. Y no sé, llegaron de la noche a la mañana y nos sacaron sin ningún previo aviso ni nada. Es todo. Gracias.
Muchas gracias. Salvador López.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Mi nombre es Salvador López y el motivo del mío es mire, que estamos, pues nos ha afectado bastante esto que pasó en cuestión de que estamos pagando demasiada renta donde estamos viviendo ahorita, ¿me entiende? Y pues como yo, pues ya soy jubilado, el gobierno es el que me da, entonces ya olvídese, ya casi no alcanzo ni para pagar la renta. Y así como está esta casa, pues, entonces yo diría que pues lo más rápido que se puede arreglar, ¿verdad? Para beneficio de todos. Es todo, muchas gracias.
Gracias. Martín Maldonado.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Martín Maldonado. Más que nada es esto, cuando se cerró el parque, desde ese tiempo, casi 6 meses más adelante, fueron puras promesas evasivas y situaciones que lo único que hicieron es que a la gente le dieron expectativas y esperanzas para que se arreglara esto. Ya a estas alturas nos dicen que nos van a reubicar. Todo el mundo estamos pagando por lo menos lo doble de renta, entre gastos de renta y luz y todo lo que los servicios. Entonces, este es un impacto que nos ha dado a todos, a la mayoría. Yo quiero que por este medio de ustedes se pueda solucionar lo más pronto posible, porque estamos en una situación precaria en el aspecto monetario, moral y también del ánimo, o sea, anímico. O sea, todos estamos muy mal, ¿sí? La gente a veces no lo dice o no lo ve porque cada quien tiene su vivienda, sus cosas seguras, y nosotros estamos inseguros en todas partes. Algunos tienen una casa, se las dan temporalmente. Si housing, que porque ya esto pasó, ya te sacan. Si en un departamento, que porque están en malas condiciones, te tienes que salir. O sea, son puras cosas que nos están afectando moral, económica y físicamente. Gracias.
Muchas gracias. María Silva. María Silva. Esa es la última página que tengo. This is my last sheet.
Buenas noches. Sí, básicamente quiero resumir lo que han dicho la mayoría de mis vecinos, ¿verdad? O sea, el impacto monetariamente que no teníamos contemplado y que en muchos no tenemos la posibilidad de seguir gastando, ¿verdad? Moralmente, discusiones, problemas con la pareja, por lo mismo. Y también quiero resumir que queremos seguir viviendo aquí en Brawley. Estamos encantados viviendo aquí en Brawley. Y lo que no queremos, queremos que las trailers, por favor, sean reemplazadas o en su lugar, que nos las paguen a un precio justo. Y también todos los vecinos no teníamos necesidad de andar padeciendo lo que estamos padeciendo por la negligencia de los señores dueños que no arreglaron todos los problemas a su debido tiempo. Entonces, eso es básicamente lo que yo estoy aportando, ¿verdad? Que por favor nos ayuden en lo que esté de su mano y para que esto tenga una solución favorable para todos. Perdón, también ahí se dice en el reporte que no hay personas con necesidades especiales, y sí hay muchas personas de la tercera edad, incluso niños, que sí tienen necesidades especiales. Entonces, todo eso también quiero que lo tomen en cuenta, por favor. Muchas gracias por su atención.
Gracias.
Gracias. Do we have any other speakers?
Are there any other members of the public that would like to make comments on the record here this evening? Certainly welcome to come forward, fill out a speaker slip.
¿Seguros?
¿Nadie más?
If there are no further speakers, I might suggest to Mayor Pro Tem Noriega to close the public hearing.
Okay.
And perhaps it would be helpful to hear from our city attorney on some of the points that came forward here today, if he's in a position to speak to them.
Okay, since there are no other comments, I'm closing the public hearing. Bill?
So, it'd be nice if the city council had the legal authority to order the owner to rehab the park, but you don't. What you do have is the legal authority to order, as a condition of closing the park, that pay mitigation for the relocation. As far as standing, the statute's really clear. Anybody that proposes to change the use has standing. The developer proposes to change the use. He doesn't have to own the park to propose to change the use. And he has filed the required plan, and he's given the required notices. When you count notice, when the law requires you to count notice, it says you have to do however many days, 5 days, 15 days, whatever, notice. You take the date of the hearing and you count backwards. You don't count the date. You go back and you count to the date the notice was giving, and the 15th day is Monday, July 3rd. We went and verified that everybody got notice before that, on or before that date, except there was 4 people that didn't, and those people have affirmatively waived notice in writing. So notice has been properly given. As far as there is very little, virtually no guidance on what is a reasonable relocation assistance. There's no reported case on it, and there's no regulations published on it. So all the statute says is it can't exceed the cost of a reasonable relocation assistance. You can't exceed that. Now, what's reasonable, that's your decision. It's not my decision. It's your decision. And then certainly these people have been displaced for a long time. Certainly there's code enforcement problems. However, this is not the body that does code enforcement. That's the county. Those problems should be addressed to the Board of Supervisors, not to the City Council. What we're talking about is relocation assistance going forward, and it's up to the council's sound discretion to decide if the proposed impact plan is sufficient. If you find it is sufficient, then you should then you make a motion accordingly. If you find it's insufficient, then strongly recommend that you you cite to things you heard in the hearing or things you've seen in written comments to justify why it's not insufficient, or your own common sense. So there's a record of why you feel like something in addition should be done, in case there's review down the line.
Okay.
I actually would like to see the proposed plan on the slide that we saw earlier with respect to some of the mitigation of costs and or relocation mitigation measures that they're taking.
Sure,
Scenarios.
And how much is being offered.
Right. Sure. So, would you like me to focus on this slide with the owner-occupied, non-movable, since that is the majority of residents?
We can focus on that, but my question really is how these figures were determined. How was 1 year, for example, if you can go back to the other scenario, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
For example, how was 1 year's rent differential plus moving cost determined? How is it that the, in addition of the resident disposes of the unit appraised value plus $500, how was that determined? How was the moving of personal property determined to be $500? Those are the questions that I have.
Thank you. And I think the relocation consultant is best equipped to not only go over the needs assessment and the process that was used for defining what makes each household distinct, and then how you arrived at the actual calculated values.
So the way we determined the reasonable relocation costs, which is what we are going by, is...
Could you get a little closer to the mic?
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
The way we determine the actual reasonable relocation cost is by first looking at in the costs for actually moving the coach or a trailer or a home. And that is that first slide, if you don't mind. So those two figures,
This one.
yes, those two figures of $6,500 for single wide and $13,000 for double wide are actual quotes received from a mover, mobile home mover, and that is what again, if the home is movable, if the residents can find another park that will accept them, there are parks in the vicinity, they might have a space and they might be able to move there. We, in our experience, think that's not likely, but again, we did not go to the detail of actually finding out that, yes, there's available space, and yes, they will take this home.
Can I ask a question if I
Sure.
could? The $6,500 for the single wide and the $13,000 for the double wide, you mentioned that those were quotes. Are those quotes based on relocating those units to
Yes.
other Brawley facilities or
Yes.
outside of Brawley?
Anywhere.
Anywhere?
It's
Okay.
basically just anywhere that you can find within, I believe we gave them the limit of 25 miles.
Okay.
So
there's
mileage
a
might.
25-mile limit, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
that was the only,
All right.
and they did not see the units.
Okay, so they're not familiar with the units, but that was just a
They're
quote that
just
they
giving
provided,
us
right?
what would be the average to
Right.
move a single wide and a double wide.
And George, you might not jump in just on that. And it's fair to say, everything that I've heard, not just from this impact, but even throughout this process, is that a majority of these dwellings or these mobile homes would likely not qualify for a relocation to existing parks in Imperial Valley or within that radius. Is that correct?
Correct. However, you could possibly find another site, like if somebody could purchase a site, like a piece of land and put it somewhere. I mean, there's other options. Park that will accept.
But, okay, because I thought, I'm sorry, I thought I read in here that most of the trailers, whoever appraised them or looked at them, found that they would not be movable. The condition of the trailers would not allow them to be moved, is that correct?
Yes. However, you are able to possibly flatbed them. So if they're small enough, you might be able to flatbed them, with a certain permit and so forth, and kind of take them to another site.
Okay, and
So
you
there is
would,
still the possibility. It's not likely that you're going to find a park that will accept them, meaning that you'll have all the utilities and all the security of this coach, this trailer, this mobile home, continue being their home. That's where we are, it's in our opinion, not going to be likely. But if tenants find it, then that is the proposed benefit, mitigation measure that the developer will cover.
Based on the condition of the units, is
The-
that right?
They are old and they are not in the best shape, yes.
and just for their understanding, you would pay for all the moving?
Well, up to $6,500 and up to $13,000 double wide.
But it was the opinion in here that if they were older than 15 years, then
That's
they
our-
probably are not movable.
From our
Is that correct?
experience and from our previous projects, not in the city, but anywhere in Southern California, you will most likely not find another park, and from that perspective, they're not movable. But you could possibly, if they're smaller, you could flatbed them to another site. I mean, we've seen that happen. That's possible.
So what percentage of the trailers there would you say are not movable?
90. There are a couple, I believe, motorhomes that might actually be drivable. We don't know, but there, so that would definitely be possible to be relocated.
Any other questions? Did you want to go through another scenario?
Yeah, if we could look at the
The next
separate
one?
one.
Okay. I'm sorry, there we go, scenario two.
So you said most of the residents fall into this category, right?
Right.
So how was the 1 year's rent differential plus moving cost determined? That was my question.
So we know what tenants, because these tenants, these residents, these homeowners are already relocated. We did look at their actual rent that they're paying now, if they are in the unit. And then, because there are some, in our estimation, 30-40% that are in, still staying with family, that are still looking, that have not really found the unit, the actual apartment or house. We then also did the research, the market research, and looked within the city and found the 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units available. And then we have taken the median cost of 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom, and calculated the differential from their current pad space rent to the to the median 1 or 2 or 3 bedroom rent.
So as an example, just for my own knowledge, if somebody is paying $300 more a month than they had been paying at the park, they would receive a benefit of $3,600. Is that correct?
12 times 300.
Yeah, so 3,600. And on top of that, they would receive the moving cost.
Moving cost for their personal belongings.
For their
Everything.
personal belongings.
Everything, now, because see, in mobile homes, it's sometimes things are attached as well. So we did not determine, and, there could be discussion of possibly changing the 500 value, but that was from our experience what is actually movable. Their personal belongings inside, which is, clothes and dishes and silverware and things like that. Not necessarily appliances and things, because that would stay with the home. So you're kind of looking at what would really be in such a small home, how much would the cost be? So we determined 500 would be reasonable.
Okay.
But if somebody has more and they feel that they just would not, that's not sufficient, we are offering the 2 quotes, so we would actually get the movers in and assess how much that would be and pay the lower of the 2 quotes.
I have another comment and really scenario. Has there been any consideration given for the fact that you've stated that about 90% of those units cannot be moved, so you're likely not going to incur the $6,500 move or the $13,000 move? Has there been any consideration in providing some sort of gap or some sort of offset to the residents for those units? Even though, because here you're going to be looking at the appraised value for the disposition of the units, and we've heard that the figures are very low, in some instances as low as $500, and it probably averaged about $5,000. So in all reality, you're not going to be faced with the $6,500 or the $13,000 move for each of these units. Is there any consideration for that?
Because you would actually add the relocation assistance for a year, so the $3,600, and then you're adding in the value of the home and the moving and so there is the benefit of what they actually have. You're looking at what they have to actually relocate.
So for these folks that, let's say, are still looking, do you give them a cap? Like if they are...
We would go with the median that we found for 1, 2, or 3 bedroom, depending on their needs. So that varies from unit to unit.
And the size of the family?
Right, it varies from unit to unit, yes.
I know that at different parts of the city, the rents are different. Did you get the rents from the different, east, west, north, south, and calculate and get the average from that? Or how did you come up with that average?
We looked at what was available at that time frame. So, no, I cannot say that we looked at different parts if there was nothing available. But if there was a unit available, yes, we took it, and that's why you will have a range for 1, 2, and 3 bedroom in our report that tells you for what were the lowest and the highest that we found in a bedroom size.
And when you talk about units, you're talking about apartments,
Yes.
housing?
Apartments and houses, conventional housing, yes.
And let me ask another question. With respect to the rent differential, there are many people from what, they raise their hand, they're living with other family members or friends, and let's say, for instance, they're not paying rent there, but obviously they're having other expenses. It could be maybe paying electrical bills or other items. Are those being considered as far as a differential, or is it simply rent?
We would be looking at going forward. So so we are not what they're doing now. So it's really kind of to the unit. If they are really with family, we're not looking at what they are doing currently. We're looking at what is the median price to hopefully house them in a permanent unit.
Okay. Yeah. Future housing, all right.
I know at one time when we were talking to several people, some of them had 7, 8 children, and you talk only about 1 or 2
or 3 bedroom.
Or 3 bedroom. Do you have any consideration for the larger families?
In our report, we are looking only up to 3 bedrooms, so which would be 7 members. So I don't know now. I would have to look at the actual interview forms. but we are looking at as if there is the maximum is 7 members. So I do not recall a case with more than 7. Okay.
And the rent differential, when would that be paid? Assuming we moved forward with this plan, would that be paid at the inception, as soon as they decide that they found accommodations?
If they are already out and they like their unit and they're already there, we will take that and we will compensate them for that. Yes, they could get the payment immediately. It's not like it's monthly. It's not like it's, just they would get the benefit and they are covered as far as the relocation assistance for a year. On the other end, though, there is the home that they have in the park, so they need to still work with that. So that would be usually paid upon the actual removal of the park, of the home.
So as an example, we heard from a couple of people here that they're paying double what they were paying before. So they're paying rent right now that they cannot afford. So if we were to approve this, how much they would be entitled to the differential for the past months that they've been paying?
They would be
up
entitled
to
to
a
the
year?
differential for a year,
For a
whether
year.
they would usually apply it forward, going forward, right? Because they covered it back. They paid already up to now. So they will receive the full benefit, and whether they apply toward rent or whatever they do with that, we wouldn't really, that would not be our concern. They could possibly put it down on a down payment on another mobile home or something. So that is, that is basically the cash benefit they're given, and then it's their choice what they do with it. Then add in the appraised value of the home, the moving, there might be a benefit to possibly a down payment on some another mobile home.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? No? Okay. So now we're going to have to...
I just want to be sure that the council didn't have any questions on the third scenario, because there was one more, which was the renter scenario. If there's not.
Do we have any?
I'm not sure. Natasha, are you able to comment on the number of tenants in your estimation that are in non-movable units and are renters of the units?
So if we put the non-movable aside, because there is again, in our opinion, it's the majority of them. So we're just saying how many are clear tenant with a known homeowner, meaning that we know that there is the actual homeowner who will receive the benefit for the move of the home. So there's the developer will be covering that. That's why the tenant is provided just the benefit of $2,000 to kind of assist them with the move. Really, it's kind of covering their move and getting them in another place.
So we do have some of those.
There are, I believe, 3. There are several with questionable titles, questionable ownership, but that is because of the title was passed through family members and so forth. But the ones that we know that are renters are because it's because the homes are owned by the park owner, the current park owner.
I have one more question for our city attorney, if I could. Once again, you may have covered this, so forgive me if I'm asking something that we already asked, but as far as the council, we talked about, obviously with this impact report, mitigations, and what we determine is reasonable. If we had an ask or even an adjustment, because I think there's some variables here that have already been discussed, and I think for a vast majority, I feel comfortable that we're somewhere in the ballpark of that reasonable. But my question is that imposed upon the owner, or is it imposed upon what would be the new developer or future owner?
Okay, well, that would
So this
be-
reflects AMG, I understand
Right.
that. So what about, if, because there is the issue of the time that's gone by and some of the adverse impacts that some of these residents have felt. So is this the moment, is this the point in time where where council is so compelled to potentially additional mitigation?
Okay, so what's in front of this council right now is what will this council order as a mitigation pursuant to the statute? And who pays that is between the current owner and AMG pursuant to their contract.
So they're both, okay.
So
That
now,
answers my
but
question.
the other part of the question is, if residents have suffered damages and that for wrongful eviction or what have you, that's not in front of the city council. That's the kind of thing that goes in front of a judge, and that wouldn't have anything to do with AMG because they didn't own the park when the problem came about.
Understood. Okay, thank you. That clarifies that.
Okay, so we have potential action to approve the closure of the Brawley Mobile Home Park and relocation impact report. So what is our question is, are we going to approve the closure of the Brawley Mobile Home Park?
And if you move forward with approval, the findings of fact are recommended by the city attorney to be the basis. So what is contained in the report would be referenced. If not, you can identify information that you wish to come back to the council at a future date.
You could engage in discussions where you think somebody might have a plan that says, I like this, and this, but I think this area should be raised. And you probably want to discuss that with the developer and the owner at this point in time, since they're here.
Not sure there's a strong justification to continue with it being open, considering the costs that they've incurred. But with respect to, my focus is really the monetary impact it's caused and the financial suffering that the residents have gone through over the past several months. So that's what I would like to see is additional mitigation measures, financial mitigation measures to help offset some of the expense that they've encountered and some of what they will likely encounter in the near future, considering that they may have paid much lower rents that are maybe customary in this city.
Just before, regardless of what action that as council as a whole we may take, I would like to ask Cameron, if we just one more. I know we've been hearing from Natasha, the consultant, but I think the decision ultimately lies on the go forward. I assume you're in very close communication, obviously, with seller, buyer, developer, all that. With reference to what Councilmember Nava said, and that's what I'm basically that's what I'm struggling with as well. As far as the go forward, would you be able to reevaluate and see what in addition, so we feel comfortable there are assurances that these residences we're really minimizing what we would consider adverse impacts. And I would think that's reasonable, falls in this definition of reasonable. We're not asking for anything unreasonable. And at first blush, when I read the report, that was the part it was hard for me to quantify. Is that reasonable or not? And then really trying to get some statistics around exactly how many residents. And I thought that was the one part of the report that was a little bit lacking, where it was hard for me to figure out how many of these families fell into which categories. So if we can get some more specifics there, it really would make it, I think, clearer for us and the public to have a go forward and move forward and feel comfortable that we're not only making a good decision, but a very reasonable decision.
Sure. And I think that from what I'm gathering, it sounds like part of the rub is really that the tenants have been displaced since last August. And we're here almost a year.
Sure.
And I think that it sounds like what the council would like to see is some type of compensation for that time that they've been having to get through. And really that's a discussion I have to have with the seller. Ultimately, as a developer, we always look at highest and best use. We think the highest and best use for this property is a commercial development. We kind of know what we can pay, and I've kind of maxed that out. That's really a discussion I probably have to have with the seller to see if, hey, the tenants, that you have 44 tenants that have been displaced for the last 11 months. Would you consider maybe helping us out with some of the rental assistance that we're going to provide? And that's something, I could talk with him about that.
And Cameron, not to get you, that's what not to get you down a path. That I wasn't being even that specific, but more of, what you can come back with, and give us a good idea of with each category of resident, how that fits our scenario 3, scenario 2, scenario 1, so that we know very comfortably how each family and resident, kind of what their pathway is going to be. And then I think it would be up to us to ultimately decide, that's reasonable. So
I think that, like Rosanna said earlier, a majority of the residents are going to fall within scenario 2. So they're going to be residents that have units that that they wouldn't be able to move. And just a little background, right in the beginning when we started this process, I talked with the county. And again, they gave me the costs and the improvements that would be needed to rehabilitate the park, and that's when we determined that that's not going to be an option. But I also asked him what it would take to move a trailer. Could any of these trailers be moved to another park somewhere else? And I'll give you a little background. We recently purchased a park in Alaska. I know it's random. And I had to move about 25 trailers, similar trailers, just like this, 40, 50 years old, dilapidated, barely standing. And we were able to move them. You pick them up, you put them on a flatbed, and we moved them down the street. We hooked them up, and they work. The challenge in the county of Imperial is we can get a transportation permit. It's getting a permit to move it to another park. So there's a possibility that one of the things that we could look at, and the reason I bring that up is that there may be a market out there for some of these trailers to be moved outside the county, maybe to Mexico. I've talked with the manager. I know that sounds far-fetched, but we're in some cases we're offering $5,000 to $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a trailer. If they can just remove it, if they can just get it off our property, we will pay them along with the rental assistance between $500 and $11,000. There are people in the market for trailers, and they would come if they could come pick it up and just pay the moving expenses, and then the seller benefits. That was one of the things that we talked about that might be a nice added benefit. If we can, so we're going to work closely with them to try to find those potential users. That's part of our plan. But again, to answer your question, I think it's scenario number 2 for sure. I mean, we might have 3 or 4 people that we can move, like Natasha mentioned. There's going to be a few people in scenario 3 there, but a majority of the people are going to be in scenario 2, in which we're going to offer 1 year's rent differential. We're going to pay for some moving expenses, and we're going to hopefully be able to pay them for the value of their trailer if we can just if they can remove it.
Can I make, I was going to suggest something, I'm not sure, because it has been so long, it's almost a year, like you indicated, that they've been displaced. I was thinking that perhaps it might be a good idea, since the current owner is present, if you think it might be good to take a 5-minute break, 10-minute break, and maybe you can discuss that potential, and then we can come back.
Yeah, I'm open to that.
I have no problem with that if you think that 5-10 minutes would.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely talk with him and.
Okay. Because we definitely, I think we're all in agreement that what they're getting, as you can see, they're not happy.
No, I recognize that.
And yes, being a whole year out without knowing what's going to happen is.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I could just suggest even hearing from the seller's representative prior to any break, I think it would be important just to hear.
Okay, we can do that.
We can do that.
They have any comment they'd like to make?
Mr. Hausman, might you be available to provide some comments on behalf of the seller?
Thank you, Cameron.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. My name's Simon Hausman. I represent the seller. First, I want to thank you for the time you've put in this evening and how thoroughly you're looking at what is a very difficult situation. One of the problems is the statutory scheme is based on the seller voluntarily deciding that they wanted to close the park. And that's not what happened here. What happened here was a fire. The Woos have been a member of this community for 40 years. And if all things were perfect, they would still be running their park. These people would all be still living where they wanted to live. But we don't control that. We have to deal with the difficult situation before us. On the issue of the displacement time that's passed, That's not covered by this statute, and that's clear. And it's something that the seller has not discussed with the developer, and we haven't had those conversations specifically with the tenants. But when the fire occurred, the owner made efforts to try to find them places to be, paid money out to them to help them with those transitions at that time. I don't have those numbers now, but certainly we should not forget that that has already occurred.
That's true.
And I'm not sure beyond that what I could do to help. If you have a question, I'll certainly answer it to the best I can.
Well, really, it's in with respect, and I don't know, what you're able to say with respect to, you're representing your seller here, but it's really more focused on the mitigation efforts, the relocation mitigation, the financial compensation that they're receiving. My questions earlier were how those figures were determined. That I received some answers, but going back to comments from Councilmember Wharton, some of the issue I'm having as well, and I'm not speaking for Councilmember Wharton, is just regarding some of that compensation for time away, for the fact that many are living with family members, the cost, they've talked about the monetary expense, and they've also talked about, the fact that it's been a stressful situation for them. So that's more of the discussion that I would like to have. If there's any further opportunity for compensation of these residents?
The answer is I don't know. I have not had a chance to discuss that with the developer. Certainly, we are focused here on the mechanism imposed by the statute to compensate them for the relocation. Certainly, some of the numbers, and I understand the numbers are still vague, and there are privacy issues, so we really don't want to talk about individual cases here.
Yeah, of course.
But potentially there are some substantial amounts of money that are going to be received by these people. The advantage of the statutory scheme is, as the developer has indicated, they're going to get it at a lump sum. They're not going to get 12 monthly payments, and that will give them opportunities that I think they will hopefully be able to take advantage of. Beyond that, I'm really not in a position to make any comments about specific individual impacts or what individual claims might be.
No, and I'm not asking for that. Thank you.
I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Hausman, my question to you is, would you like 5 or 10 minutes to speak to the buyer?
I've certainly always enjoyed talking to the buyer.
Okay.
But
I mean,
realistically,
I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want our time to be wasted either. Just, it's a question.
I think the appropriate way to address that would be to to address each individual owner's, each tenant, each lot. There are 44 of them. We need to look at the specifics relating to each of them, what they've incurred, what their situation is, and I don't think that could adequately be addressed in a 5-minute conversation.
Very good. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I've got one more question, and not
Certainly.
for you, Mr. It's actually directed at Cameron again, if I could, really the both of you. But looking at your timetable, I looked at that's in the impact report. We've come this far. I thought this hearing was very important. Again, it's a step in the process, but obviously we take it very seriously. I think everybody does. Do you see any significant adverse impact if we take one more opportunity to take in the information we have? I think I have a lot better questions now that I want to get answered, some of which may take a little bit of time, and some of which I want to indicate, and this is my opinion, not the rest of council. I think what's been put forth is close. It just, I have some issues that are keeping me from moving forward tonight, which I would like to, for the sake of the residents, for the sake of the owners and all the parties and all this, and really, frankly, for the city of Brawley. We would like to move forward. This is my opinion, but I would like just a little bit more time, and I'd like to direct the suggestion of seeing what you could do. And I know it may take time to address 44 residents or family, but somewhere in this, I would assume that would have already happened. And in looking at the time frame, it does say resident information meeting, but I think that's all that was, right? Conveying of some basic information. I don't know what the depth of engagement has been, but I'm going back to the same thing. If there was more information as to, let's say, the large majority of the residents can be mitigated sufficiently with what's been discussed, then I think there would be some level of comfort.
And I can have Natasha come up and talk. I mean, we had the workshop, and that, which was it was a little bit of a give and take. It was we presented, we gave people the opportunity to ask questions. We had the housing authority there, we had the county there, because the one thing to point out is there are other forms of rental assistance out there available from the county that we want all of the residents to apply for, along with the housing authority. People have the opportunity to jump up to the front of the Section 8 waiting list, which is a huge. If you can get a Section 8 voucher, that's strong.
Yeah.
So that was discussed, but Natasha and they also had one-on-one meetings with everybody to find out their exact situation. That was conducted. There were phone interviews conducted with every tenant.
Yeah.
To find out their situation, how long they've been there, how big their family size is, where they can move, things like that. And I could have her come up and maybe shed a little more light on that.
Because I think in some cases, it may be very reasonable to the resident. They just don't understand exactly what they're getting and what they're being, whether they're being compensated or what kind of assistance they're getting. I think it just comes down to a very simple thing. What's the number? And that would be me if I was moving.
I understand.
It's what am I getting? And, what are you appraising my, and I'm not convinced everyone knows that, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and our concern with that was, like you mentioned, it's kind of a privacy issue. We want to have those individual meetings, because if that gets out, what we found in the past is neighbors are complaining, well, my trailer's worth more than theirs, and you get this squabble.
I see.
And that was kind of the concern there, why we wanted to have the individual meetings, why we gave a range, and it's based, and there is a methodology, it's based on household size and things like that. So we have a very concise methodology we use. I'd be concerned about, if we met with people and we gave some people more than others. That's kind of why I'd almost rather have it be kind of across the board per trailer. If we were to offer something additional, whether we just say, look, we're going to give everybody an additional $500 towards moving expenses, I'd probably feel more comfortable if it was just across the board. So people aren't saying, well, hey, you gave him more than me, and it just creates some friction and issues I'd like to avoid. It might be beneficial just to meet with Peter really quick, just to talk to him for a few minutes and see if there's anything that we can do. I don't think it would hurt. If you guys are willing to give 5 minutes.
We're willing. 5-minute break? Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Okay, thank you. Okay?
So, thank you for the opportunity to give us the chance to talk. And again, I just want to point out that when I came here today, I kind of had maxed out what I could pay and still have this a feasible development for us. But I did want to talk with Mr. Wu to find out if we could potentially work together to offer just something additional to help offset some of the expenses that the tenants have had over the last 11 months. And I think together, what we would like to offer now would be an additional $500 per trailer. I mean, it's something, it's additional it would be a $22,000 additional assistance for the trailer park, $500 per tenant. And again, like I said, it's we're working off a very thin margin. So I wish there was more we can do, but as far as from my perspective of a developer, I'm kind of maxed out. I mean, we're already at over $1 million into this project, this transaction.
Okay.
So that's.
All right.
Well, I'm happy that you were able to come to an agreement on
like I
that.
said,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, my comment to everybody involved, not just the residents, but the developer and the seller. And I'm glad that you came together to have a discussion. It looks like they've agreed at least to pay an additional $500 per unit. I realize that that's not money that will change anybody's life in any direction, but if we hadn't asked for anything, it wouldn't have been offered. So, having said that, it has been presented to us that the park is in a situation to where it would just cost too much money to make the necessary repairs and get people back in. In fact, not everybody would be able to be accommodated at that facility if those repairs were made. So what's been described to us is that the best use of that facility is something different, and that's the commercial development, some of the renderings you saw earlier today. But I just wanted to offer my support. I know that there's other programs throughout the county. We've even offered within the city of Brawley assistance for relocation expenses and for rental housing assistance. And so, that offer still stands within the city of Brawley. I'm hoping that the decision to offer an additional $500 sits a little better with everyone here. I know it's not what you're looking for exactly, but I hope it offers some assistance, and those are my comments.
Okay, any other comments from my? No? Well, my comment, come forward.
I can come up and object.
Yeah, you need to come on the record.
Thank you for letting me speak. I respectfully find that.
Do you want to say your name again?
Oh,
I'm
yes,
sorry.
my name's Beatrice Garcia, and I'm directing attorney for CRLA, and we represent residents of Brawley Mobile Home Park. And $500 in addition per resident, it's just not adequate, in our opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all in all, as city council, we are here to help in every which way to our residents. It's very difficult sometimes to make these decisions that we have to make and feel that it's fair for everyone. We understand that everyone's trailer is not the same. We understand there are different sizes and different families, so there is the potential of people getting, different amounts. But at the same time, as you all well know, that trailer park is not livable the way it is, and for the expense and how much it would cost, it's not viable. So at this point, we tried to get you a little bit more money, as much as we could. I'm not sure that everybody knows how much they're getting, but they will be told. So now we have to make the decision to approve or not approve the closure of the Brawley Mobile Park. And again, please remember, it's a very hard decision that we have to make. So I'm asking my fellow council members, Norma, you're approve or not approve the closure of the Brawley Mobile Park?
Well, I feel that based on what we've heard today and all the information that we have, and unfortunately that mobile home park is not livable, as we've all been told, and there's absolutely nothing that we as a council can do to make anyone fix that mobile home park, and we cannot keep anyone from closing the park. The park has already been closed. The owners decided to close it. We have to move forward, and we're trying to accommodate you as well as we can. And I think you know that we're all trying very hard to get you back to a situation where you're comfortable and you have your family and your living arrangements are such that hopefully you can be content and happy. I don't see anything other than that making that decision that mobile home park must be closed, in my opinion.
Okay. Mr. Wharton?
I'm going to go ahead and move forward and make a motion. I think I don't want to belabor everything that's been said, but I'm going to make a motion to approve the closure of the Brawley Mobile Home Park and relocation impact report and accept that with the addition of the $500 assistance as prepared by EMG and Associates.
Thank you. Mr. Nava?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. It's been moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. And the meeting has been closed.